In the district, police responded to at least 7 separate shootings Friday and Saturday. 12 people were hurt in what appeared to mark the most violent stretch of crime in D.C. since President Trump's federal surge began back in August.
And what we need is a law, legislation, D.C. code, whatever you want to call it, in place so that young people know that they can be held accountable.
Now, the judge did emphasize the purpose of juvenile court, which she says is to rehabilitate, not punish, which she hopes will happen with these probation periods.
I will veto this ordinance because it is counterproductive to the progress that we have made in reducing crime and violence in our city. It would create tensions between residents and law enforcement at a time when we have worked so hard to rebuild that trust.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all remember a few months ago when the federal surge of National Guard and federal law enforcement resources into D.C., when that was all over the headlines, it was international news. How could you send the National Guard into D.C.? The crime rate's going down. We don't need that help. But then the National Guard went in and all the federal resources went in and the DC crime started to go down and everybody said, oh, looks like it's working. So now the same type of system is going into Memphis and crime's going down. And it looks like it might be an overall good strategy. But y'all, one thing you have to understand though, and this report is going to point this out, after 12 people were shot in D.C. over the weekend, 12 people shot in D.C. over the weekend, is that the local decisions on the ground still make a huge impact, still have a huge impact on the outcomes for people in the city. See, you can't just send in outside resources to take over a city and decide, okay, this is going to be enough. No. Local decisions on the ground make a huge impact, and I am going to show you how your boy, the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, how his type of thinking has infiltrated, apparently, into Washington, D.C. You already know Chicago is probably one of the best cities in the country and probably one of the worst run cities, right? So Chicago as a city, excellent. Chicago as a government, particularly the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. I mean, do you get any worse than that? So we're going to take a look here at how DC may be making the same type of mistake that the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago is making. And hopefully even the mayor of DC, though, she's like, yo, we need to fix this because people are getting killed. So y'all, without further ado, I'm going to make this case for you. It's going to be a brief video. So just watch to the end and then you drop a comment and you let me know if you think I'm onto something, y'all. First, we're going to take a look at what happened in DC over the weekend. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not going to make this a long one, y'all. Go to Paralegal, PARALEGOLD.com or call 844-651-8334, 844-651-8334. If you have $50,000 to $100,000 or more in your retirement, protected from inflation, protected from monetary debasement, you're about to retire. Make sure your money's still there and it's still worth something by investing at least some of it in gold. Talk to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Go click the link now, get the free information, and protect your precious retirement.
In the district, police responded to at least 7 separate shootings Friday and Saturday. 12 people were hurt in what appeared to mark the most violent stretch of crime in D.C. since President Trump's federal surge began back in August. News 4's Mark Seagraves has details and reaction from the mayor, including why she insisted that some of those shootings were predictable.
So now today you want to talk about crime, and I want to talk about crime too, because what we saw over the weekend was unacceptable, but sadly it was predictable.
Mayor Bowser today reacting to 7 separate shootings over a 24-hour period Friday and Saturday that injured 12, including a 6-year-old boy, leaving one adult victim fighting for his life. The shootings occurred across the city, most of them Friday, and as Chief Smith detailed, many involving juveniles as both the victims and suspects.
If we go over to 50th Place,
where we had the juveniles in a fight. Initially, the fight started at Kelly Middle School between two groups of females. And then what we see on video, very clear images, is a young person, a juvenile, pulling out a gun and obviously discharging the firearm. Yuma Place, what we saw in video, a real-time crime center, is really good technology. On Yuma Place, we see 5 or 6 young people coming out of one of the apartments. There is a verbal altercation, exchange of words back and forth. What we see at that point is another juvenile taking out a firearm and discharging it towards that group. Unfortunately, it hit a young lady that was sitting inside of the car. She was not an intended target. Howard Place shooting on Howard Place in Georgia Avenue, where we know, based on video observation, there were 2 groups, one walking east, one walking west, passing by one another. What we hear from the witness, the account, is that he saw an individual in the opposing group who looked like an individual who robbed him 2 years ago. And at that point, there was an exchange, not necessarily an exchange of gunfire. One individual from the opposing team took out his firearm and he shot at the group that was passing by him. We did recover 4 firearms at that location. And then the incident that happened on Savannah Street in particular with a 6-year-old, where there was a graze of a bullet.
So what did you notice in practically all of those stories is that she says a juvenile, a group of juveniles, a group of young people, right? And you would expect that. I mean, most of the time when you have 12 shootings over a weekend, this is not your 60s and this is not your 50 and 60-year-olds out there doing it. But now, let's listen to what they say is one of the problems as to what's happening in D.C. But you know what? Before we do, y'all, I'm going to show you what happened in Chicago. Just bear with me, y'all. We're making the case. Take a look at what happened in Chicago just a few months ago, and you will get a preview as to the problem as to what D.C. is dealing with, y'all. So let's take a look at your illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, your boy. Let's take a look at what he did in Chicago just a few months ago.
Today, City Council passed the so-called SNAP curfew ordinance in an effort to crack down on teen takeovers.
The ordinance passed in a tightly contested vote, but the victory will likely prove short-lived. Our Sharday Gray is in the newsroom now. And Sharday, the mayor just said he will veto it.
Exactly, Joe and Erica. The SNAP curfew passed with a 27-22 vote, but Mayor Brandon Johnson said a short time ago he plans to block it. The ordinance would give police the power to enact a curfew anywhere in the city, giving young people 30 minutes to clear out. It's aimed at stopping the big teen takeovers that we've seen get violent in the past. Mayor Brandon Johnson opposes it, calling it an overreach. He says it can lead to racial profiling and potential lawsuits over misconduct and violations of free assembly.
I will veto this ordinance because it is counterproductive to the progress that we have made in reducing crime and violence in our city. It would create tensions between residents and law enforcement at a time when we have worked so hard to rebuild that trust.
It doesn't mean criminalizing our young people. We need to stand firm and do what is right. And that means investing in our young people. That is why this summer I'm so proud that we will hire 29,000 young people for summer jobs, a 45% increase since taking office.
So as you can see there, y'all, when you're illustrious and sub 10%, what you do is you say, we want to build trust in the community. So we don't want to really police the community the way it should be policed. Young people, let them run free. Let them run free. Let them go out. Let them discover. If they want to group up by the hundreds and thousands and take over places and fight and shoot, it's part of being a youngster, right? That's what you do when you're illustrious and sub 10%. Now to her credit, the DC mayor does not want that. But let's take a look at some of the challenges she's facing. You're going to notice a similar pattern of thought to the illustrious Brandon Johnson. Let's take a look.
Both Smith and Bowser took aim at the D.C. Council for not extending the chief's authority to implement emergency youth curfew zones as leading to some of these shootings. That authority expired at the beginning of October.
As soon as that legislation or bill failed, the very same weekend, the young people came out. They started putting flyers out and really began to precipitate in that same behavior that they had before. And it's a challenge for us because, as you know, we're short resources. So we're doing everything we can. What we need is a law, legislation, DC code, whatever you want to call it, in place so that young people know that they can be held accountable. Right now, they don't feel like there's any accountability, so they're starting to do the same thing all over again. And it is very frustrating.
The D.C. Council is scheduled to hold a public hearing at the end of the month on whether to extend the youth curfew zones.
Listen, to me, it's very obvious that we need it. They say they want to have a hearing so that we can say it's very obvious that we need it. So we'll do that. But then they need to pass it.
Now, the police chief says right now the kids don't feel there's any accountability. Huh? Well, how could that be? Well, you know what? Let's take a look at a prime example of what happens in D.C. when you are a youngster and you commit acts of violence to somebody. Y'all probably heard about this when Elon Musk's protege, his team member in Doge called Big Balls. Everybody remembers Big Balls, right? When Big Balls got beaten up and bludgeoned and bloodied. What happened to those people who did that to him? Did they get punished? Did they really get punished? Or did the judge say, well, my job is not to punish, it's to rehabilitate? You already know, y'all. Let's take a look.
And on a case that got a lot of attention, the assault of a Doge staffer here in the district. You may remember this picture. Today, the 15-year-old girl accused of attacking this person you see on your screen there pled guilty. Our Melissa Kim walks us through what happened today in D.C. court.
Well, the 15-year-old girl appeared to be nervous and fidgeted quite a bit as she told Judge Kendra Briggs, quote unquote, I plead guilty for one count of simple assault. According to prosecutor Stephanie Daigle, the girl assaulted the victim with pepper spray without any legal reason at the Sunoco gas station on U Street on the night of August 3rd. She was sentenced to 9 months of probation despite her attorney asking for 4.5 months. Meanwhile, the 15-year-old boy previously pled guilty to a felony assault charge and was sentenced to 12 months probation because, according to prosecutor Daigle, he attacked the victim to the point where he broke his ribs and had to get stitches on his face. The judge ordered both of them to stay away from each other and away from the district except to go to school and any job or family obligations. Both of them are from Maryland. Now, the judge did emphasize the purpose of juvenile court, which she says is to rehabilitate, not punish, which she hopes will happen with these probation periods. The two of them are scheduled to check in with their progress in 60 days.
So what's happening in D.C. right now, they have the resources, but you still have a lack of commitment among the power structure. It sounds like it's divided, right? You have part of the power structure that's like, yo, we need to do everything we can do. And part of the power structure who's like Brandon Johnson, who's like, yo, boy, well, you know, what about the trust of the community? Does the community trust you when you aren't policing them? Does the community trust you when 12 people are getting shot in a single weekend? Does that foster trust? And also, y'all, it's the same type of language. The same type of language that people use when you're talking about getting violent criminals and people who are in the country without permission out of the neighborhood. Well, it's about community trust. So basically, by not policing the community, they will trust you not to police the community. Okay, I see how that works. Y'all let me know, am I tripping? Am I wrong? Do you disagree with me? Because I'm always open to a good debate, you know? Particularly if you have a good point. I like to change my point of view when a better point of view is available. So y'all let me know down in the comments, but before you do, please stop, hit the share button. Share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. To my people of retirement, go down, click the first link in the description, Paralegal, PARALEGOLD.com. Get the information on protecting your retirement from the upsies, the downsies, the roundsies, and the roundsies. And you can reach out to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals at 844-651-8334. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all. We'll see you back in the next one.